What is your age, your earnings, your gender, the things you like to share with your friends, and the things you want to keep to yourself, combined with thousands of other data points, have become a $1 trillion savings account for the world's largest tech companies, and they will begin making withdrawals in the next 5 years. Facebook is under increasing pressure to answer questions about how a data firm with ties to President Trump's 2016 campaign obtained private information from more than 50 million Facebook users without their permission. Political campaigns want to advertise to voters in the most efficient way possible. Wednesday against Facebook over the Cambridge Analytica scandal. It's no secret that big tech companies have been collecting petabytes of data on every user they can lure onto their platform. I'm very concerned that the people who are spending the majority of their time right now speaking, focusing, and thinking about big data are large companies and governments, and that's fine, but this is going to affect our lives, our parents, and our children, and I think we should all be concerned. Billions of dollars in important information. The data manager Snowflake was so appealing that they even convinced the legendary Warren Buffett to change his investing strategy around tech IPOs so he could include them in his portfolio. Those are just the companies that make sense of your data. The companies that can actually harvest it are worth trillions, and that's because your information is useful for so much more than just targeted advertising. Whenever we're online, information brokers grab our information and use it to create user profiles that might earn them a lot of money. Jeff Bezos may or may not be listening with Alexa. Look for product suggestions. You should have a sundae, but that's just the beginning. The cherry on top of big data sundae. Big data firms employ far more successful business techniques than recommending a new toaster to you. Because memory storage has gotten orders of magnitude cheaper in the 2000s, huge IT businesses began to realize that their data would be highly monetizable through commerce and direct sales to third-party data brokers. Thus they began to collect as much data as they could. Much as they could, but data brokers frequently take all of the breadcrumbs that they have gathered about you, combine them with other data they can obtain, and then share all of it with businesses that want to market to you, framing it as a win-win situation. Back then, high-volume data center memory still cost up to $10,000 per terabyte and was stored on inefficient hard drives. All web organizations were required to store some transactional user data such as login details, names, account statuses, and anything else relevant to their service. The big data companies went even further, taking a risk by collecting thousands of other non-essential data points such as how long users stayed on certain pages, what time of day people would interact with certain services, and what caused users to leave the platform. The business value of this data was obvious, but it was too expensive to store, and compiling such large data sets into usable information would take weeks or months with the computers available at the time. Would become cheaper and computer processing would become faster, and as it did, the data they were collecting would become proportionally more valuable. The companies that started first took the biggest risks, but they were able to build the biggest data modes right. So you know, if you're a small new company and you don't have any specific data sets yet, unfortunately I think you're at a disadvantage. Investors love when a company is difficult to compete with. Anti-competitive companies are prohibited from engaging in illegal behavior, so the next best thing they do is construct moats around their markets. These are advantages to the incumbent market leader that any would-be competitor would have to overcome in order to begin gaining market share. Detailed user data is a huge advantage for one company to have over another. Microsoft executives discovered that providing their business to commercial sales executives who have precise market insights could increase their productivity by 30%. A new company seeking market share will not have any user data until it acquires consumers, and acquiring people will be difficult when competing against entrenched companies that already have user data. Tesla has a significantly higher earnings multiplier than legacy car brands because it prioritized collecting driver data, which is now being used to develop full self-driving features. If Tesla never successfully implements autonomous driving, the millions of hours of driving data that it has stored could be sold to another automaker attempting to develop autonomous driving. It's time to learn how much works to find out why your information has become a $1 trillion market. This week's data has become cheaper to store and easier to analyze. A decade ago, companies would need to build expensive in-house tools to analyze data and do anything useful with it. It takes time and money to build software, and it must be maintained to keep up with new technologies. Many huge firms attempted to construct data management solutions in-house, but most were clumsy and slow, costing them more than they ever earned in improved business operations. Already had experience building software. Were the only ones that got it right in Other companies were left using basic regression analysis done by teams of analysts to make use of their databases. It was a huge market opportunity that had been filled by third-party specializing in data analytics companies like Snowflake, Teradata, Amazon Redshift, and Google's BigQuery will ingest a company's database and provide a range of tailored tools to quickly and intuitively work with the customer data. They invested so much time in collecting. These services have a price range between $250,000 and $5 million per year, which is an insignificant investment for major companies that would have spent that much on internal tools anyway. In exchange, they get tools that are constantly updated and function as required. The customer turnover rates from the biggest data analytics providers is extremely low, which signals that the companies that work with them are satisfied with the results they provide. Modern tools are able to use technology like machine learning and advanced results-based algorithms to use data in ways that would never be possible with human intuition alone. The YouTube algorithm suggested this video to you because it knew you had an interest in finance and business. It knew that you may have watched my videos or videos like mine before, and when you did click on those videos, you watch them for longer than you watched videos on other topics. YouTube is an algorithm that is using the data at its disposal to deliver the result of maximum watch time on the platform. If YouTube gets more watch time, it can deliver more ads and collect more data. Advanced algorithms like YouTube's are now accessible to all companies that can afford the subscriptions to data service providers, enabling more companies to effectively cash in on their data. New tools can also help clean up messy data. Having a billion data points means nothing if it's not organized into a usable format. As companies migrated their data between different databases, formats would regularly be changed, lost, or duplicated. This made much of it unusable without having people go back through millions of entries and correct everything manually. Modern tools can fix a lot of these problems without human intervention and make different data sources work together in one central database. The game developer EA gets data coming from Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, and their in-house distribution platform Origin. All of these platforms send user data back to EA in different formats, which makes using them together impossible without manually changing formats to play nice with one another or using a tool to do the same thing. EA actually uses Snowflake to monitor things like how long users play certain games, what modes create the highest player engagement, how to most effectively push microtransactions, and the right balance of skills-based matchmaking to keep giving players the right amount of dopamine. The driven algorithm that recommended you this video to keep you engaged with the YouTube platform is the same as the matchmaking algorithms that decide your teams in online games. They aim to keep you engaged by making sure you aren't winning everything and getting bored, but you are also not getting destroyed every round in rage quitting. In addition to improving user engagement and spending, using data can also help companies like EA cut down on costs by predicting server usage and only just having enough available to meet demand. You might hate them, but these tools make companies like EA a lot of money, and they have all been fine-tuned by mountains of data used effectively by off-the-shelf tools. If this so far has sounded a bit too big, brother, for your liking, it gets a lot worse. User data has become highly valuable, cheap to store, and easy to sell. In other words, it's pretty much become a new type of currency, one that is impossible to tax and can be spent as many times as the company wants. One of the most lucrative strategies to monetize this data is used by hedge funds. Hedge funds have been quietly buying consumer credit and debit card transaction data to monitor which retailers are outpacing or underperforming their earnings. Projections the hedge funds will buy or short the companies ahead of public announcements profiting off the shift, and share price that follows these transactions. Transaction data providers charge millions of dollars a year for access to the real-time databases. Some banks sell this data directly through private agreements with hedge funds, and others go through service providers like Bloomberg's Second Measure, which is a subscription on top of a regular Bloomberg Terminal subscription, which already cost $24,000 a year. Hedge funds will even pay a large premium to be the exclusive purchaser of customer data so that they can make profitable trades based on information that is technically public. But nobody else has. Major hedge funds will also subscribe to multiple data providers to ensure they are getting a comprehensive overview of customer activity before even the companies themselves. It's not a strategy that is going to work for someone with a Robinhood account and a few $1,000, but it's been incredibly profitable for the firm that can pay to play. Hedge funds have some dirty tricks to generate big returns, but they have nothing on the guys that operate in the world of venture capital. But to find out how these guys still make money after investing into failure after failure, go and watch my video on what the venture capitalists actually do. A special thanks again to for making it possible for everybody to keep on learning how money works.